Hello everyone, my name is Catherine Miguel and I am the Schools Liaison Outreach and Recruitment Officer at the Queen's College, which is one of the colleges that makes up the University of Oxford. You may recognise my voice from a talk I did for you back in the autumn of 2020 when you were just starting at Blackpool Sixth Form, in which we spoke a bit about demystifying Oxford and Cambridge, and a little bit about what those universities are like and what makes them different to other universities in the UK. So for this event, for your Building Futures event, I'm making this video to tell you about the Oxbridge application process and to go into that in a little bit more detail. So you've got this to refer to should you decide that you would like to make an application to either Oxford or Cambridge in the coming academic year. So I'm going to be taking you through these different stages that you can see up on the screen, and I'll give you a bit of advice about each of the individual sections. So let's get started. So first things first is choosing your course. Which subject do you want to study at university? Now this is the most important decision because this is the subject that you are going to university for. This is really your main motivation to be going on to university. So picking a subject or subjects that you are really enthusiastic and passionate about is super important because you need to be self-motivated, determined, and really enjoy that subject for the next 3, 4 or 6 years, however long your degree programme might be. It's also important to make sure that you have looked into the differences between courses that have the same course name that are offered at different universities. So, for example, history at Oxford and history at Cambridge, yes, they have the same course name, but there will be different papers that students are expected to do within those courses. There may be different compulsory papers compared to different optional papers. So that is important to do with Oxford and Cambridge as well, particularly if it is a course that is offered at both and you are trying to narrow down between those two, because you can only pick one out of Oxford and Cambridge. For others, this may be a more obvious choice. For example, there are some courses that are only offered at Oxford and only offered at Cambridge. For example, if you're interested in veterinary medicine, you can't do that at Oxford, unfortunately, you could only take that at Cambridge. So it's all about trying to work out which university courses are correct for you and making an educated choice. So now we're in March, you've got a good number of months ahead of you. It's a really good time to do that research into the different courses that are available at different universities and really help you to narrow down your choices. Step 2 for the Oxbridge application process is pick a college or make an open application. Now, as you know from our earlier session in autumn, we spoke a little bit about how the universities are made up of different colleges. And when students make an application to Oxford or to Cambridge, they can put down a preference as to a particular college they would like to apply to. Now, I think as we'd said back when I last spoke to you, it's not the case that any college is better or worse than any other. There aren't particular colleges for particular subjects, so there isn't like a science college or a languages college or an arts college. They all offer a range of different subjects. Not all colleges offer all subjects, so it is worth making sure and double checking that the course that you are hoping to study is offered at the college that you are interested in. In some cases, some subjects are only offered at a very small number of colleges. For example, at Oxford, we have a course called Materials Science, which is only offered at about 7 colleges. So that might help you to narrow down your choice a little bit, which could be very helpful. There are lots of factors you might take into consideration when you are trying to decide on a particular college, and it's really a personal decision. You might be thinking about things such as the location of the college, the size, the aesthetic, what facilities does it have to offer in terms of accommodation or catering. But it is really entirely your choice. No one is going to quiz you about why you picked a particular college. They're going to be too busy quizzing you on why you picked your particular course. That's what they're really interested in. So the college is just your personal preference. Some colleges would not be an option for you because some only take graduate students. And some also only take students who are 21 years and over, so those would also be ruled out. At Cambridge, there are also women-only colleges, so that might be something that you would consider or that you would have ruled out. There are lots of factors that you might be thinking about when you're deciding on a college. It could be the size, the location, the atmosphere, all of these things might play an important part in your decision-making process. But it's worth remembering that colleges are really more the same than they are different. They're all going to offer very similar facilities, and every student who is at Oxford and Cambridge thinks that their college is the best college. So I'm sure that should you end up at Oxford and Cambridge, whether or not it is a college that you chose actively on your UCAS form, whether or not you did an open application and you were assigned to a college, or you indicated a preference on your UCAS application, but you were pulled and therefore reassigned to another college, you are going to absolutely love the college that you end up, and you're going to be very proud to be part of that community. About a third of students who apply to Oxford and to Cambridge end up at a college that wasn't the one they put down on their UCAS form, and they all seem very happy and really proud of the college that they end up at. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on point 2 of the application process. Do what you can to explore the different colleges. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder this year because we're going to be doing so virtually most likely, but the universities will have virtual open days in the summer. So you might want to have a look at virtual tour videos, maybe see if you can join any sort of Q&As or live streams to chat to any students at the particular colleges, just to see, what's the atmosphere like, what's the vibe like. Maybe check out any key factors of things that you are particularly interested in. So find out maybe about the accommodation, what sort of facilities have they got? Have they got a gym? Have they got sports fields? What's sort of the social life like within that college? Anything that you really have as a priority. Maybe just get involved on the virtual open days and ask some of the current students, because that will give you a bit of a flavour of what the different colleges are like. Step 3 is to make sure that you have thoroughly checked any upcoming deadlines. Get out your planner, your diary, your calendar, whatever it might be, and make sure you've got all those important dates in your diary. And this includes admissions assessments and test registration deadlines. Now, for a number of subjects at Oxford and Cambridge, applicants will need to do admissions assessments, and typically these will be something that you will sit either in your sixth form college, or it will be something you sit at a local test centre, so where you maybe would go for your driving test or something like that. Now, this is something you need to make sure that you have registered yourself for. So yes, check those deadlines, make sure you know when you need to have registered by, and do it, because you will be sitting those assessments before an interview takes place. There are some assessments that take place at interviews as well, so it's just well worth making sure that you have registered and that you are being responsible for yourself and know those key dates that are coming up and that you are well prepared. Now, step 4 is the UCAS application. The deadline for the UCAS application is always 6 p.m. on the 15th of October. I cannot imagine that will be changing because it has been that deadline for years and years now. So again, another good date to have in your diary and make sure that you are all prepared for. Now, in your UCAS application, there will be several things, and your UCAS application will go to all of the universities that you are applying to. So within your UCAS application, there'll be some personal details about you, your name, address, your date of birth, all those sort of things. There will also be your academic record, so how you have done academically so far, your predicted grades. There will be a reference written by a teacher or a tutor from your sixth form, talking a little bit more about you as a student and why they would recommend you to the universities that you're applying to. And there will also be your personal statement. Now, your personal statement, I'm sure that some of you have already got a bit of an idea about what this is, and you may already have spoken about it at sixth form, but there will definitely be a lot more focus on it in your sort of spring and summer term, and you'll probably be expected to start to produce some drafts in the summer. So in your personal statement, this is a document of about 4,000 characters. You will basically be explaining why you would be a great student to study the particular subject you are interested in studying at university. So you will be explaining why you are really interested in studying that subject. Now, something that you can be doing now in the spring and moving onwards is starting to keep a bit of a journal or a bit of a record of anything that you have done in your spare time that has been related to your subject, that has helped you build your subject interest. So these are what we call supercurriculars. And this could be anything from picking up an interesting book to do with your subject, giving it a read, making some notes on it. It could be listening to a podcast, watching a documentary, maybe doing an online course or online program, something like that. Would be a great way to find out more about your subject and keep a record of the things that really interested you, not just a list of, I read these 15 books or whatever it might be, but tell yourself in your record, what did you learn when you were reading them? Could you make any links between these particular books or particular podcasts or documentaries or interesting lectures that you watched online, TED Talks, YouTube videos, whatever it might be? So expand on what you are listening to and what you are reading and watching, and make notes about that now, because then when you come to writing your personal statement in sort of over the summer holidays and into September, you will have plenty of things to talk about. A personal statement for Oxford or Cambridge, and really for any top university, should be about 80% focused on your subject interest. So your supercurriculars, how have you developed your interest in your subject in your own time? And the sort of other 20% or so can be more focused on maybe extracurriculars. So your hobbies, maybe being on like school council, or like the sports you do, or drama, or sort of any sort of more like personal development kind of activities, as opposed to sort of development within your subject. Blackpool Sixth Form will probably expect you to be getting in that UCAS application before the 15th of October. So yes, that is the UCAS deadline, but I imagine they will probably be asking you to get that in a little bit earlier. And that is always sensible, because you don't want to be worrying and panicking on the 15th of October that it isn't quite up to the standard that you had hoped it was up to. Making sure you kind of lied to yourself a little bit and told yourself that the deadline is earlier than it actually is always a helpful thing to do. So step 5 is a step that is unique for those of you who are interested in Cambridge. And that is what we call the SAQ, or the Supplementary Answer Questionnaire. The Supplementary Answer Questionnaire is typically due on the 22nd of October. If that date changes, I'm sure that Cambridge will communicate that with you, but it is typically a week after the UCAS application deadline. And in the Supplementary Answer Questionnaire, it's basically a little bit more contextual information about you. They're asking for things like class sizes, perhaps the modules that you have already covered as part of your A-levels, just so they can get a bit of a clearer picture of you so far. And there's also the option to write a small Cambridge-specific personal statement. So you might want to put a little bit more information about why you're interested in the Cambridge course in particular, which obviously you couldn't put in your sort of normal personal statement, because that goes to all of your university choices. So you might want to sort of specialise it a bit more if you want to, but don't have to if you don't want to. Oxford don't have this step, so if you're interested in Oxford, that is not something you have to worry about. I would say that around this time is a really good opportunity to make sure that you have flagged up with the college or the university that you have applied to, any contextual information that they need to be aware of. So some of this may already have been in your UCAS application. So this could be things like disability or learning difficulty, anything that you maybe need extra time for or additional support. That will already be in your UCAS application. But if there is any additional contextual information we need to be aware of, then it may be useful for a teacher, maybe your GP, a social worker, a counsellor, whoever is most suitable in a particular instance, to email directly to the college you have applied to, or the college you have been allocated to, should you make an open application, just to make sure that they are aware of this contextual information. And also, if anything unfortunate happens throughout the process of your application, you fall very unwell, or there's a bereavement or something within your family, it's worthwhile making sure that an appropriate person, typically that will be a teacher, communicates this to the college that you have applied to, just so we can bear that in mind when we're considering applications, and make sure that you can be well looked after and supported throughout the process, and see if there's any adjustments or changes that need to be made. Okay, step 6 and 7, not going to focus too much on because hopefully I will be coming to you guys in person in autumn to talk to you more about these steps, particularly step number 7, which is the interview, but we'll focus a little bit on these now so you've got a clear picture of the overall application process for Oxbridge. So step 6 of the Oxbridge application process would be to submit some written work and or to take an admissions assessment or test. If you're expected to submit written work, this will be communicated to you by the college that you have applied to or been assigned to. So they will let you know directly how many pieces you need to submit and sort of what length they are expecting, and also the deadline that they would like them in by. For your written work, you are not expected to produce a new piece of work. This should be something that you've already done as part of your sixth form studies. So something that you are happy to talk about, you're enthusiastic about, scored you hopefully quite high marks if it was maybe a piece of coursework or an internal deadline or something like that. Something you feel confident and happy talking about should it come up perhaps in an interview. Now, the other part of this step 6 would be an admissions assessment or test. Some of you may be in the unfortunate position where you have to do both written work and do an admissions assessment or test. I am very sorry, but hopefully you can see that as just another opportunity to showcase your academic talent, showcase your interest. It does sound like a lot of work perhaps right now, but it's a really great chance to show your academic passion, and it's really just a way for us to gather more information about you to help us make an educated decision on your application. If you do need to take an admissions or assessment or test, make sure that you have been well prepared for that. You'll have registered, step 3, obviously, you'll have done that, but make sure that you have tried some practice papers and really made sure that you are familiar with the material and that you feel confident knowing what the structure of the test is going to be like, and that you've done some practices so you're as confident as you possibly can be going into that assessment. Step 7 will be interviews. Interviews take place in December. Who knows what the world will be like in December? Perhaps we will all be able to go off on holidays, but if you're applying to Oxford and Cambridge, do not go booking any holidays in the first few weeks of December because you could be called to come for an interview. Again, we're not sure if interviews are going to take place in person or if they're going to take place virtually. In 2020 they took place virtually for the first time, but in previous years they have all taken place in person, so you would get the chance to go to Oxford or Cambridge and have your interviews there. Now, in the interviews, they are really looking to find out more about your subject interest, how you think, and how you respond to challenging material that is sort of beyond your school curriculum. We will talk a lot more about interview preparation at a later stage, and again, I think at this stage in March is not something you need to be worrying too much about just yet. But great things that you can be doing, which will help you sort of subconsciously prepare for an interview in some way, is to keep talking about the subject that interests you. So make sure that you are keeping up to date with the news to do with your subject, reading some interesting articles, doing all those fantastic super curriculars that I'm sure that you're already starting to do. But make sure that you talk about those things with someone else. So this could be someone else within Blackpool Sixth Form, could be a friend, a peer, someone from your classes, an interested teacher, it could be somebody at home, a sibling, a parent, grandparent. They don't need to be an expert on the subject or really even know what you're talking about. Just there to sort of listen, maybe ask you a few questions. Now, in terms of the logistics for interviews, students would typically have more than one interview. They could be interviewed by more than one college as well. And interviews are typically anything between 20 to 40 minutes in length, and they are academic subject-based discussions. So they aren't interviews that you maybe would have had for perhaps a part-time job or Saturday job or internship or anything else that you may have done. They are focused on academic questions. So they're not going to be doing things like asking you your strengths or your weaknesses or how and why have you shown examples of, being a team player, that sort of thing. It is going to be looking at academic material and engaging with it, answering thought-provoking questions, having a bit of a back and forth and a dialogue and a conversation. It's not an interrogation. it is a subject-based conversation, which hopefully should be very enjoyable, very rewarding. Yes, probably very nerve-wracking because it's going to be quite different to anything that you've done before, but it's a chance to talk about the subject that you really love with someone who is an expert on it, and hopefully someone who will be one of the people teaching you for the next few years of your life, should things, should everything be successful. Now, step 8 will be the decision, and this will come in January. Again, feels like a very long way off. We're talking January 2022, which is months and months away, but that is when you will find out whether or not you have been successful in your application to Oxford or to Cambridge. Now, there are a number of different formats that the decision can take. It could be the unfortunate news that you have not been offered a place at the university that you have applied for. And that means that you might decide, you know what, I worked really hard, it's a shame, but I'm really excited for my offer that I have received from one of the other fantastic universities that I am sure you will no doubt have received offers from. So you might like to put them down as your first choice, and that'll be the place that, should you get the grades, you'll be going to. It could be that you decide, oh, I didn't get the offer this year, but you know what, I'll take a gap year, I'll take time out. I really do have my heart set on Oxbridge. I'll apply again next year. And you're, of course, very welcome to do that. And any application you make in the future will not be sort of linked to an application you've done before. So you'll be considered a fresh and a whole new application. We could have great news. It could be the case that you have been made an offer. And again, just to make things a little bit more complicated, offers can take different forms. Now, it could be the case that you are given an offer from the college that you put down on your UCAS form as your preference. So that's great, very straightforward. It could be the case that you have been given an offer from another college. So this could be one that you have been reassigned, or what we call pooled to, throughout the process. So a different college that may or may not have interviewed you during the process will be giving you an offer. And again, a fantastic outcome. You might then want to spend some time finding out a little bit more about that college that's given you an offer. And as I said earlier, under step 2, I think everyone who ends up at Oxford or Cambridge adores the college that they ended up at, whether or not it was the college they put down on their form. That's what happened to me. Actually, when I applied to Cambridge, I was pooled to a college that wasn't the college I applied to. And I absolutely loved it. I couldn't actually imagine being at the college that I applied to, because the college that picked me felt like it was the right choice in the end. It could also be the case that you are given what we call an open offer. Now, these are just for Oxford. Cambridge don't make these kind of offers. But for an open offer at Oxford, that means that a particular college has underwritten your offer. So that means that on results day in summer, it may be the case that you are reassigned to a different college, but as long as you get the grades that you are asked to get in your offer letter, you will certainly be going to the University of Oxford. We're just not sure which college you will go to on that day. So yes, there's a few possible outcomes. It could be no offer, unfortunately. It could be fantastic, an offer from the college that you had put down as your preference. It could be fantastic, an offer from a college that you have that you were assigned to during the process, or it could also be fantastic. For Oxford in particular, you have been given an open offer. So there we have it. That is the overview of the Oxbridge application process. You will no doubt go into more detail into all of these individual sections and focus on more of them as the time comes up, but really good to have this overview so you know what lies ahead of you. I know that it seems like a very long process, and it is. It's going to last several months. And also, obviously, when you have received your offer in January, you then do still need to keep working hard and achieve those grades that you've been asked to achieve, so that you are able to take up your place in the October of 2022. So it is a very long process, but hopefully it will be well worthwhile, in that you will be successful, and yeah, be able to become an Oxford or Cambridge student. If you've got any questions at all, you're of course very welcome to get in touch and ask me anything about the process, if there's anything you need clarifying, or any more that you want to find out about, then I'm very happy to help, of course. Hopefully you found this useful and it's given you a bit of an overview. You'll be able to get a few key dates in your diaries, and and think about those next steps that you can be doing now. So get researching those courses, start finding out more about the subjects that you're really passionate about and about what these different universities can offer you as a student, so you can pick your favourites. Pick whether or not it's Oxford or Cambridge that you want to go for, pick a college, pick a course, all of those exciting things. So yes, very best of luck, and I am sure that I will see you very, very soon.